Washoe County Library System welcomes you to our monthly series from the Nevada Historical Society presents High Noon with Neil Cobb. This afternoon's topic is about the story of Kimmie Candy presented by Joe Dutra. My name is Samantha and I'm happy to be here with you today. And now I would like to introduce Sherry Hayes-Zorn with the Nevada Historical Society. Again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Samantha and Tim, and of course, as always, the Washoe County Library Systems for helping us share our wonderful High Noon series with everybody. And we really appreciate this long partnership. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this interesting talk and remind everybody that this year is our 120th birthday celebration throughout the year. So we have other great programs, so you'll want to check them out, including some great lectures for Art Town in July. And all those programs are free every Saturday in July. So make sure you check our website. But I have to introduce our host, of course, Neil Cobb, who is our honorary curator and longtime supporter here at the Nevada Historical Society. He has been helping share great Nevada history and support of the Historical Society since 1988. And this program couldn't be what it is today without his support. So without further ado, let me introduce Neil. Hey, Neil.
Thanks, Sherry. Always appreciate your intro. Our speaker today, Joe Dutra, an amazing man, a dynamic personality that started off as a farmer there in Sacramento, having the American dream to finally get into the candy manufacturing business. What a difference, what a difference. But I'd like to talk more about the man himself. Just like Joe Morey here locally, I learned a long time ago to respect the successful because they didn't get there easily. Now, Joe is a deep thinker with a wonderful imagination. I can focus on the imagination, a clear focus on his goals, and now blended with the work ethic beyond the normal. An absolutely amazing man, giving back to the community every chance that he has. So at this time, welcome our special guest, Mr. Joe Dutra.
Thanks, Neil. My gosh, you were very eloquent in giving me all these kudos, but I think everybody has a journey in life, right? And I think mine has been really interesting because I was a third generation farmer from Sacramento, California, and I would always planned on being in the farming business and really never had any inclination of ever starting a candy manufacturing company. But what happened was in 2000, a friend of mine came to me and he said, hey, there's an opportunity to buy 40,000 pounds of candy-coated, chocolate-covered sunflower kernels that was collecting demurrage at the San Francisco port, at the Oakland port. And it had come from Korea, and somebody had ordered it, but then they reneged on their order. So he said, hey, he says, if you buy this 40,000 pounds of candy, he says, what I will do is I will turn around, I will sell it, and then we'll split the money. And I said, okay, great, you can sell candy. He goes, God, I can sell anything. He goes, I'm a talented salesman. I said, great. So I buy the 40,000 pounds of candy. It's like sometime in October, and it's starting to cool off in Sacramento. And so all of a sudden I put it out in the ranch in a container, and I forget about it because I do some other projects. I have an international seed company that sells corn and alfalfa into the Middle East. And so during those period of times, usually when I'm busy with the seed business. Well, I open up the container in February when it starts to get a little warmer in Sacramento, and there's still 39,990 pounds, and I know I've eaten 10 pounds of it myself. So I turn around, I call this gentleman up, and I say, what's going on? He goes, Joe, he says, it's the worst business in the world. It's a good old boy network. It's controlled by Mars and Hershey's and Ferraro and Ferrera and all these big monster companies. He goes, I just don't know how I'm ever going to sell any candy. And I said, well, what am I going to do with 40,000, almost 40,000 pounds of candy? And he goes, I don't know. So I began a journey of learning about the candy business. So I put the candy into controlled atmosphere storage. And I start reading every book I can about the candy industry. And of course, I'd have a couple of cocktails, and then I'd read, and I'd have another couple of cocktails. And over a period of time, I read a ton of books, but I ended up reading one book in particular. It was called The Emperors of Chocolate. And what it did is it told the story of how Mars had started his company and how he had failed, and he started again, and he failed again, and how he had so much persistence that finally, the Mars Corporation is one of the largest family-owned corporations in the world. And so I read that, and I read how Hershey started, and he owned Lancaster, candy company, which was doing caramels, and he was almost to the point of being completely broke. And he got a big order, and it revitalized his company. And so it went through, and it talked about all these companies. And what I got out of the book was that the candy industry had a lot of, good morals, family-run businesses initially. And I thought, my kids are not going to be farmers because they didn't grow up as I did on a farm in Sacramento, growing tomatoes and wheat and barley and rice and stuff. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity for the kids to do something. So after about 4 martinis one night, I went to my wife at that time and I said, honey, I'm going to start a candy manufacturing company. And I said, I'm going to be just like Mars. And she looked at me and she goes, Joe, you're crazy. You're a farmer. She goes, you have no idea how to create a candy manufacturing company. And I said, hey, we live in America. This is one of the greatest places on earth to be entrepreneurial and to start something. It's like, it's like the American dream. You see all these entrepreneurs that have been successful in life. And like I say, they're always overnight successes, but it usually takes 20 years to be an overnight success. And so anyway, I decided after that couple of martinis, I was going to start a candy manufacturing company because I had to get rid of the 40,000 pounds of candy. So then the journey began. So now I'm looking at how do we market the candy? How do we get it out into the public? What do we have to do? So I decided that first thing I needed to give it a name. And originally I was going to call it Give Me Candy, like Gimme Candy. And so one night met at a bar with a bunch of friends, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to name the candy company tonight. I'm going to call it Gimme Candy. And that'll be the name of the candy company. We're going to start marketing. And a girl at the bar, who was a friend of ours, that had been involved in the brokerage of this first container of candy. Her name was Kim, and she says, I understand that you have a little vegetable seed company, and you name all your hybrid vegetables after your friends and family. She goes, name the candy company after me. And so I went, Gimme, her name was Kim. I went, Kimmie Candy Company, cha-ching. And the next thing I know, then I wake up the next morning with a hangover next to my wife, and I roll over and I say, honey, I really should have named the candy company after you. And she looks over at me, she goes, oh, Joe, don't worry, it's never going to go anywhere anyway. So I thought, okay, I'm safe. Kimmie's a great name then. And so that became the beginning of Kimmie Candy in 2000. And we've been very fortunate as we kept going along. We started packaging, we kept the manufacturing over in Busan, Korea, because that was also strategic, because I thought, if everybody was right, that I really didn't know what I was doing, it'd be really easy for me to tell a story of, the factory was there, Kim Jong-il sent a rocket over and it blew up my factory, and now I'm out of the candy business and I just go back into farming. Well, then after a couple of years, in about 2004, we were starting to get some traction. We had been on Oprah for some healthy candy from a show. We had been able to get in a Christmas program with Nordstrom's. And so we were starting to go into places like, Nugget Market and some of these smaller, venues. And I decided that the candy company had some legs. And so in 2004, I decided to look at bringing the manufacturing back into the United States, because I wanted to create American jobs. And I wanted to be able to, support the community that I was manufacturing in. And that's the same way, kind of the history of farmers, right? Farmers, were always supporting their local, their vendors, tractor dealerships, people are selling fuel, seed companies. So it's very important to me that we keep, a local presence. So in 2005, I started looking across the United States to find a place to put a factory. And originally I picked 3 places. I picked El Paso, Texas. I picked a town in Utah, and I looked at Reno. And so I almost was in the point of doing one in El Paso. And at the very last minute, the company sold, and I decided that I was going to come back to closer to home. And at that time, my parents were older. I was kind of their primary person in their life of taking care of their affairs. And so I decided I'm going to look at Reno, because it's only a couple of hours from Sacramento. And we're an old farming family from Sacramento, where there's a historical Dutra house down there. And I thought, this gives me a little bit of still connections with Sacramento. So I looked around Reno, and I was originally looking at going out to Mound House, and then I came into Reno, and there used to be a place on Mill Street. It was called Penny's, and I went into Penny's, and I thought, this is the first experience I'd had in Reno. I don't know anybody, and I went in there for a drink. I had been looking at buildings, and I'd been running around like a crazy man. And Penny, the owner, she comes up and she goes, what do you drink? And I said, well, I need something strong. I'm looking for a building. And I said, I'll have a scotch. And she goes, well, what kind of scotch do you drink? And I said, well, Macallan's. Or she goes, well, we don't have that. I said, okay, well, that's no problem. She goes, but next time you come in, I will. I said, okay, sure. So I look around. I finally find a building that's over there by Hamilton Industries on Reactor Way. I'm looking at the building. I decide that I'm going to buy the building. I hadn't bought it yet, so I go back to Penny's for lunch, and I can see Penny looking, and she comes back and she goes, here's your Macallan's, the first drinks on me, welcome to Reno. And then I knew that Reno, Nevada was going to be my home. So I bought the building in 2006, we built it out in 2007, and then we ended up bringing everything from Korea back to Reno. And we started manufacturing 100% here in Reno in 2008. So that building was about 15,000 square feet. And I thought I would be there for the rest of my life. I thought, my God, I have about 20 pans. I can make almost 1 million pounds of candy. This is amazing. I'm going to be here. I'll retire here. I'm done, right? And of course, a number of years later, probably about 8 years later, I said, my God, I don't have enough room. I need more production. And so in 2016, I ended up buying another building around the corner on Edison, right on the corner of Edison and Jewel, right next to the TMCC, William Pennington Technology Center. And I bought this building, and it was just basically a gutted building. It had been the old NCR manufacturing facility a long time ago, and so began the journey. So we started, building it out and putting the new rooms in and taking all the things that we needed to do. And in 2017, we opened up this factory, sold the other building, and we've been in this building. This is about 45,000 square feet, and now we have about 100 pans. And we're making candy, and we're basically going all across the US, Canada, and Mexico. We export to about 8 different countries now. We've just been blessed with making candy that tastes good. And you know, it's just something that I think that we're really good at, making candy. And we started then to look at producing candy for other people. So we're doing some contract manufacturing now, producing candy for several other people. And so I look at that as being part of the American dream, you know, that a farmer with no experience in the candy business, ever had a thought of doing anything other than farming, could all of a sudden become into the candy industry and make it work. So as we went along, you know, this industry that, you know, was the good old boy network, a number of years later, I'm on the board of trustees of the National Confectioneries Association, and I'm blessed because now I'm sitting on a boardroom table with the head guys of Mars and Hershey's and Ferraro and Jelly Belly and all these amazing companies that from all over the United States, and it's just been an amazing adventure. And the best thing about the candy industry is it's really in everybody's life. You know, the candy, if you grew up in the United States, candy was in every holiday. It was it's given as a gift. It's given as given to kids when they do good things. It's taken away from them when they do bad things. But you know, the candy industry, everybody's eating candy. Everybody in the world at some time has eaten candy. And I was telling Neil earlier, it's kind of a business which I never realized, but the only craving you are born with is a craving for sweets. And it doesn't make any difference what it comes in. It's either sweet milk from your mother, or it's juices, or it's candy, or it's anything. It's how we get you hooked really early, because think about, every child likes sweet things. And what I found out was that because we're born with, this is the only craving we're born with, is that it fuels your brain. Your brain needs glucose or whatever sweetness it is that gets in, because it helps your brain mature and grow. And that happens till I think you're about 8 or 9 years old. But by that time, we've got you hooked on sweet stuff. And so everything you see in almost every commodity has some form of sugar in it, because it's something that everybody grew up enjoying. And what's happened for us in the candy industry is that we're all looking at reducing sugar. You know, all of a sudden, I think if depending on how old you are, you know, it's like they're demonizing sugar now like tobacco. But you got to remember, you know, there was a time in the world where tobacco was promoted by doctors. You know, it was crazy. The Tobacco Association was promoting everything, and they were saying, hey, everybody should smoke. Well, I think sugar is starting to become a little bit demonized like that because of the obesity in the United States. So every company and every chocolate manufacturer are looking at making candies and chocolates that are better for you, a little less sugar, maybe a little less fat. And so what we found out that, you know, if you can eat candy of some type, chocolate candy or something that has some benefits or has less chocolate, and you're still going to want to eat it. You know, it's not a food group. It's really as a treat. And so what we're finding is that there's becoming more and more products in the market that have different characteristics that are more interesting. We just bought a company about 1.5 years ago called Good Day Chocolate out of Boulder, Colorado. And Good Day, and now it's homed here in Reno at our factory, and it is candy with benefits, chocolate with benefits. So the Good Day product line is chocolate that has, for sleep, that has melatonin, or it has valerian root, energy that has caffeine and niacin, probiotics, tummy for kids, you know, and different different products. We just came out with 2 new mushroom products that use chaga and lion's mane, and that's for immunity and helps your memory. And we have a new one that's called PS, that's mind fuel, that helps, that's been scientifically proven that supplement actually helps you keep your memory a little bit longer. But people are buying this because rather than taking a pill, that's just a pill of melatonin or a pill of caffeine or a pill with some probiotics in it, they are able to take a really high-end dark chocolate and get the same effect, but now they've got their little bit of treat at night, maybe after dinner or whenever, and so we're seeing that market is growing for us. Those products are in all the Whole Foods worldwide, and Sprouts and Rayleigh's and those kind of, Molly Stone in the Bay Area. So they're in a little higher end, programs, because they are a supplement candy and not a regular candy. But we're seeing that happen also in the gummies. You're seeing all the gummy bears, are starting to have vitamins, and people are looking at how they can sell a product that's better for you and still give you the same, satisfaction of having something sweet or chewy that you'd like to eat. So we're seeing more and more of that go into products across the U.S. And we're also looking at creating some products that are smart snack compliant. So we've got a couple of products, a chickpea covered with a little bit of chocolate and a candy shell that we can get into schools, and as well as our Sunburst into a school program where it's a snack and it meets all the smart snack requirements, like less than 35% sugar and less than so many grams of fat. And the interesting thing is something like a sunflower kernel doesn't even qualify as a smart snack because it's got too much saturated fat, but because it's just a seed, you can get it into some of the programs. So we're starting to develop more and more programs like that. Our ChocoRocks and our Sunburst are our 2 national lines. Like I say, we sell those to by the truckload to a lot of topping companies and people that are distributors that are putting it into mom and pop candy stores. We find that, if you go across the United States, you'll find our candy in a lot of locations. We're not big like Mars and Hershey's, because they basically control about 97% of all the confectionery spaces in grocery stores, because they have the ability to put a lot of products. Mars owns Pedigree dog food, and they own a bunch of different Uncle Ben's rice. And so they're able to go to a store and offer them discounts on the candy if they put so many of their products into a store. And that becomes kind of the program for the big companies. But there's so many locations, and there's the business is so big in the United States. I think we're around $30 billion of confectionery is sold in the United States every year, because you got Halloween and Easter and Valentine's and a great deal of candy is sold during those holidays. And so you find that there's still even that little bit of a niche for 3 or 4% of the other candy guys like me, that we can go in and we can compete a little bit into a store because they want something new or they want something unique. And we've been creating some really interesting new products. We've come out with some chocolate boulders. We've come out with some protein lines of candy where you can get 10 grams of protein in a bag of 2 ounces, so about 5 grams of protein, as well as it's something that tastes good. And so that's the other thing that we're able to do, is because technology has changed so much over the last 10 to 20 years, you can actually go in and buy compound chocolate that tastes almost indistinguishable against a milk or a dark. And what's happened this year, I know most of the people out there have heard, the price of cocoa has increased 3-fold. So probably for the last 10 or 15 years, the price of cocoa in the world market has been between about $2,500 and $4,000 at the high, and then it usually comes right back down. This year, the price of cocoa went from 6,000 to 12,000 for a short period of time. And so now you're going to see a lot of companies look at alternative pricing by using compounds. I don't think it'll change the taste very much. You know, some people in the old days, there was very little difference between compound chocolate and milk or dark. Today, I just looked at booking some chocolate yesterday, some dark chocolate yesterday. What I paid 18 months ago, I paid $2.15 a pound. Yesterday was $6.05 a pound for that same chocolate. So there's going to be some price increases, I believe, you know, by the end of the year, and some significant ones for people that are just using a chocolate center. You know, we have some capabilities because we're adding a sugar shell, or we're putting it around an almond or something like that. And the other thing you're going to see is that chocolate covered almonds are going to be more 1-to-1. Before, almonds were like $4 a pound. And chocolate was $2 a pound. So you'd put a really thick coating of chocolate on it to keep the price, to reduce the price of the whole pound of candy. Now, almonds are $2.50 a pound and chocolate $6 a pound. So now you're just going to give almonds a kiss of chocolate and call them skinny almonds, or, you know, misty chocolate almonds or whatever. So the industry's trying to adjust to these high cocoa prices, and they believe that next year the price of cocoa on the world market will be between 4,000 and 6,000. So there will be an adjustment, because at a 6,000 market, the price that we paid compared to the last number of years is going to be about 42 to 50% more expensive. So people are looking at alternatives. There's some candy or chocolate companies that are doing stuff with hazelnuts instead of cocoa beans, and trying to get the same mouthfeel and the same look as you would with regular cocoa. But you know, I think the future is going to be something that kind of looks that way. I'm gonna show a few pictures here while I remember. So it'll kind of go through, and I'll give you a little idea of you know, where we started here in 2008. You know, at the first candy factory. There'll be a few photos of that, and then it'll kind of show you the building, inside of the building that we bought in 2006 and 2016. And then what it looks like now in 2024. And then it'll show you a few pictures of what we've been doing with regards to promoting Nevada and all the other things. So I'm gonna see if I know Tim's gonna help me out on this, because I know I'm probably not the best technological person in the world, but I'm gonna try to show you a little bit about Kimmie Candy here. So these were the pictures of the first factory, some of the kids that came in, and all the photos that were shown. Of course, this is this Hanson devil that showed up at the retail, and you can see that, you know, the walls were really beautiful that she had painted, my daughter, and of course Willy Wonka of Nevada here. And actually, there's been a couple of little magazines that have come out showing that. These are some of the products we sell. You know, we sell in plastic tubes and gusseted bags, and we sell in bulk. And so we're very fortunate that we're able to sell all these things across the US. This is a picture of the factory before, when I just bought it. So there was old cars parked inside, and there was dirt floors, like I told you. And this is the production area. And then we turned it into a candy manufacturing facility. So these pans, each one of these pans, because we are considered panners, and each one of these pans makes about 300 pounds of candy per shift, per day. And so in the background, you see there's a dehumidification unit that sucks all the moisture out of the air and returns dry air so that the candy will dry. We put a sugar coat. We add about a coat of sugar about every 20 minutes, and each pan gets about a liter of sugar syrup. And then our candy has anywhere between 18 to 36 coats of sugar shell. It takes about 56 hours for us to make our candy here at Kimmie Candy. This is that packaging area that you saw before in the original building. And so we actually, in this building, on the right, we have a gusseted bag machine where we can do gusseted bags from 1 ounce to 1 pound. In the center, we do 5-pound bags where we sell in bulk. And then on the left is our small bottling line that we do for Good Day Chocolate, where we're putting anywhere between 50 and 80 pieces of candy with benefits, chocolate with benefits in each one of those containers. You can see here we make about, this is before, we make about 14 million pieces of Sunburst a day. Probably we're double that now. And ChocoRocks, because they're a bigger piece, we make 6,696,000 pieces. And our Choco Almonds only about 715,000. We have to make our own bars for our ChocoRocks. And so this is a bar room. That this bar making machine in the upper right corner, that makes about a 30-foot long chocolate bar, and it ends up breaking off about every 18 inches. And what they do is they put those in the baskets, and then the baskets are frozen with the chocolate's frozen for about 40 hours. And then we can take it in and we can chop it, and it makes those unique pieces of ChocoRocks. This is a part of the packaging area that we have. We just put in some new machinery. We do tours, every day we'll do a couple of tours where we bring kids and parents from, out of town or in town to go through the factory. So this is some more of our packaging area. We have a mixing area, and each one of those black bins above the packaging machine holds about 1,000 pounds of candy. And then that machine will actually pack out about 100 pounds a minute into 5-pound bags, and those go into 30-pound cases. This is the spray room for putting more chocolate onto sunflower kernels. It's an interesting room because it's kind of filled with a light mist of chocolate in there, and the guys that are in there are always the sweetest guys we have, because when I first started the spray room, one of the guys came out and his eyelashes were really long and he had all this chocolate. And I said, "Oh, let me get you something to clean it off." And he goes, "No." He says, "Don't." He goes, "I go back home and my girlfriend kisses my eyes to get the chocolate off of it." So he says, I like to have a little chocolate on me. So, it's Reno rodeo time. And a couple of years ago, they wanted me to help out. I've been donating candy for the children's rodeo for many, many years. And so Violet and Clara decided that it might be fun to do a rock eating contest. So I'm now the Cowboy Willy Wonka for the Kids Day at the Reno rodeo. So I put on my Stetson hat and my Lucchese boots and go out there, and we get the kids to eat ChocoRocks. And biggest mistake I made was the first year we did it. We put a bowl out in front of the kids. We dumped in, I thought, kids can eat a lot of candy. And we put this probably 2 or 3 ounces of candy in there. And unfortunately they started dry heaving after about 2 ounces. So now this year we're only doing a half an ounce, and so it should be okay. We've been fortunate to be in Reno. Reno's been a great town for me. Nevada's been an amazing state for me to be in. And so we have been able to go back for many, many years. We always did what they called the Washington Forum with the NCA, and we were able to go back and meet, like, this is, Amade, our representative, and he actually has a bunch of our boulders, choco boulders, in his office in a dump truck, you know, so I thought that was kind of cute. Governor Sandoval, we would, every year we donate candy to the governor's mansion in Carson City. And the last one we were in, we went down there and saw Brian and his wife to celebrate, you know, he was just starting to leave, I think, at that time. We represented the state of Nevada at the very first Made in America Day at the White House. And I tell you, no matter what, it was probably one of the best days of my life, because in the background, you see me and my son and Shannon, and the funniest thing is they didn't want anybody to take pictures, but the friend of this Thai to our right there, he had somebody taking pictures, and he got a snapshot, which I thought was great. But it was so funny because being in the White House and everything was a historical, you know, gift. And so we were in the East Wing of the White House. We spent there 10 a.m. in the morning till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we got to meet all the people from Congress, and President, you know, shook our hand and said, you know, I'm going to make it easy for you to do business. And so we just had this amazing day. And at the very end, I got a call. I used to do some Fox Business News, and I got a call from this producer in New York, and he goes, hey, do you want to be on TV tonight? And I said, oh, no. I said, I'm out of town. I can't do it. And I hung up. And Shannon looks at me and goes, did you tell him you were in Washington, D.C. representing Nevada? And I go, no. He goes, call him back. So I called him back and I said, hey, Mike, I'm in the White House representing the state of Nevada at the very first Made in America Day at the White House. And he goes, Joe, I'm sending the limousine to pick you up. And so that became the beginning of an amazing night. You know, I do my 2 seconds worth of online for Fox, and then the rest of the night we wanted to go out to dinner. And this young man next to us, he said, well, we can't get you in. And then all of a sudden I get a call from him, and he says, Senator, he says, they're holding a table for you. And I said, Senator? He goes, yeah, you're the senator from Montana. And I said, well, who in the heck is the senator from Montana? He says, don't worry, nobody else knows either. So the rest of the night, I was that senator running around. And this is us at the White House and with my son. And it was really great. We've been doing some trade missions in Abu Dhabi. This is because, we always want people to eat our candy and get stronger. So now we have Casey's our mascot. And so he's been working out a little bit. That's my daughter. The Reno Tahoe magazine did an expose on us one time and put a lot of candy on my face, which was another adventure. And so Catherine did a little show of that. We made the biggest ChocoRock in the world. That chunk of chocolate is solid boulder, a choco boulder. It weighs 220 pounds. It was hand painted with a sugar shell, and it's now sitting in a glass case in one of the largest candy shops, an It's Sugar shop in New Jersey, and it's a showpiece for their candy shop. We were blessed last year. We were able to go to the White House for the egg roll, and they were handing out candy made in Nevada to all the kids that left the egg roll that day. So it was a beautiful day, and I was really honored to be invited to be on the White House lawn for that event. Let's see what else. We did a little fundraiser when the big thing was the Ukraine, and so we did a fundraiser and we raised some money for the kids that were being displaced, and that's Casey in the back. And then, we're proud to say we're made in Nevada, and I think that's a good thing. We won in 2016, we won the Presidential E Award for exports. And so we were only the 9th company in 60 years to win that award in Nevada, and we were the very first candy company in the United States to win that award. And so we were really proud that we won this award for exports for Kimmie Candy. That gentleman next to you is one of my best friends in the world. His name's Alvaro Tomas from Brazil, and he was always instrumental in being part of the Kimmie Candy when it first started, because we had a little seed business together in South America, and he was like, no, this could be an amazing business for you.
Neil, do you have any questions you want to start off with? Or
Yes, I have a hell of a time, pardon me. I have a tough time mailing a small package. How in the world do you address the shipping to all of these different countries? And of course, across the United States, how do you accomplish that?
Well, it's interesting. We have a great bunch of employees here, and so the retail area. So we have at the factory here, we have a retail area called KC's Best of the West, and we're just in the process of doing more e-commerce. We do a bit of it now through Amazon and through a couple of different online stores. But we really think that the future for us is going to be shipping onesie, twosie, like Amazon. Everybody's becoming lazy. They don't want to go to the store anymore. They just want to push a button on the screen and have it delivered in the next couple of days. So what we're doing is primarily how we work, Neil. We ship to distributors and direct to retailers. So like if we're selling, we sell to places like Hobby Lobby and Cracker Barrels, and we will ship to a distribution point for those people. We'll ship a pallet or two. Normally those customers are big enough to take, full pallets. And then our distributors will also take full pallets. And then when it gets to their distribution warehouse, what they do is then they ship it out to smaller, like, 30-pound case here or 10-pound case there. They're able to distribute in different regions of the United States. And then for international, normally what we do is we work with consolidators at the port that are able to, take a half a pallet or a full pallet and put it in a container with some other food products and then ship it over to, the Philippines or Vietnam or wherever we're going to be shipping to.
Can you give us the address of where you are right now? I have no idea how to find it. I went to the old place.
Oh, well, the old place now, Hamilton Industries bought that building a few years ago, and now it's a parking lot, unfortunately. It was kind of the sadness in my heart when I saw them tearing down my first factory. I was like, oh my gosh, they're tearing it down. But now we're at 405 Edison Way in Reno, Nevada. We're right next to the William Pennington Technology Center here on between Jewel and Energy. So I think that we're on the east side of the airport. People can walk in here. There's a big tasting bar. It has all our candies that we make here. They can just come in. They can taste the candy. We've got videos always running so they can see, similar to what you just saw online. They can come in there and kind of watch how we make the candy. And then we have a little educational part where they can see the different ingredients and how it's made. And we used to have a map on the wall that had sugar cubes on it. And it was showing where all the sugar was produced around the world and cocoa beans and stuff. And one day, and we basically glued a sugar cube on with a thumbtack and we stuck it into the map. Well, one day I walk into the tour area and I see these two kids with their mouths up against the map and they're sucking those. And then I said, oh no, this won't work because these poor kids, there's a tack on the other side. So it was hilarious. So that was the end of the sugar cube map, where sugar comes from and stuff. So but yeah, no, it's a fun thing for kids. We built the biggest little candy factory arch, and so you can come in and take pictures under the arch, and there's free candy for the kids to eat, and then the retail part, we call it KC's Best of the West because we have a lot of friends in the candy industry, and so we're carrying stuff like freeze-dried Skittles and some local companies here that are making some products and Jolly Belly products and some other things that are from people from west of the Mississippi. So it's a fun place to come in, and it's if you call you can always call in and they can book a tour for you, because I think we only do them about twice a day now. And then you can come in and kind of actually walk into the package area and watch the pans rotating. And so it makes it interesting to actually walk in and get the feel and the smell of a candy factory.
Hey, Joe, so how long is your tours, if somebody wanted to schedule a tour?
So they're about 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, you know, they're walking in, they're being told how we produce and what we produce, and then the videos that you could watch, you know, they're probably about 10 minutes, and so people can come in and watch a video of how we make the different kinds of candy, and each one of the videos is about 10 minutes. We have a new one we just did with a company here in town, and I think that one's about 12 minutes.
When you were talking about the cost and how that impacts business or rethinking packaging, like you were saying about the cost of cocoa, did you mention the reason why? I don't know if I missed that or.
Well, I think the reasoning is this year, you know, of course, the weather in Northern Africa. So on the Ivory Coast and Ghana produce about 90% of the world's cocoa beans in that area, right? And so they're having some weird weather over there. So what happens is speculators on Wall Street get involved, and they say, well, look at, you know, this cocoa, you know, price might go up. And so you're able to buy a contract of cocoa for $10,000 for $100,000 worth of cocoa beans. Well, and so many people get in the market, it just keeps going up and up and up. And it's come down from its historic high of 12,000. It's about, I think, 7,000 right now. And you're able to contract in 2025 right now at 6,000. But the harvest doesn't start until October. And when the harvest starts, then they'll be able to look and see what kind of yields they're getting, and they may be able. A lot of it's politics too. You know, the Ivory Coast government and Ghana government, you know, they work from last year's prices. So this year, what's happened is a lot of smuggling. So if you go to a different country, you can sell at world price. But if you're in Ghana and you've got a contract, you're selling at maybe last year's price. So they think it might equalize out a little lower, but they don't think it's going to go much below $4,000 a metric ton.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, because when you were talking about that, I was like, well, yeah, but I didn't realize Africa and the Ivory Coast produce so much of the cocoa. So
yeah, and it'll change. You know, Brazil, you know, used to be a major producer. They ended up with a disease that they couldn't control at that time, and the varietals that they had, they were unable to control this witch broom that they had down there. Now they have varieties that are resistant. And so what's happened in Africa is there's a lot of pressure about deforestation of the jungles and about child laborers and that kind of stuff. And you know, like I grew up, I guess if I had grown up now when I was a kid, my parents would have had child labor, right? Because it was like, you know, if you're old enough to go out and drive a tractor or pick tomatoes, that's what you did, because it was your family and it was cheap labor, right? But you know, we've changed a little bit, and so there's a lot of push now to, you know, not deforest, and so Brazil has huge areas that they can grow cocoa beans, and so what you'll see is it's like everything in agriculture. The price goes up, everybody will start planting it, and then, you know, 4 years from now, the price will go way down because there'll be a glut.
Joe, how many employees do you have, and what kind of turnover do you have?
So we have about 48 people working for us now. And it's funny, it's, you know, during the pandemic or right after the pandemic, we could not find any employees, you know, because part of the business, you know, the guys in production, I've had guys in our production, you know, part of the company for 15 plus years, but in the packaging part, it's kind of a repetitious job. And so we get some turnover in that area. But like I say, right after the pandemic, we could not get anybody to come in to do it. What's happened here in the last 6 months is we probably have 2 or 3 people a day walking in looking for a job. So the economy has changed, where people have run out of maybe government money. And so they're starting to look for employment again. And what better place to work than a candy factory? It's sweet. It's really sweet.
It's really sweet. Joe, thanks a million.
Yeah.
Wonderful program. You're a good man. That's what you are.
Well, Neil, you can't start drinking too much before noon. That's all I can tell you, because and you're very kind. I appreciate it. It's people like you that keep things moving, and I appreciate it. I mean, you've done a great job with the Historical Society and getting things and talking to people and letting people tell their stories, because, Nevada's a great state. And there's a lot of amazing companies that have moved here since I've been here. And it's always an adjustment, because when I moved here, they didn't have any food manufacturing companies hardly here. And now there's a lot. And so people are seeing that Nevada is a great place to do business. And, the old Nevadans probably think, God, I wish people wouldn't keep coming in, because housing prices are higher and the restaurant costs are more. But it really is. It's a fantastic place. And if somebody wants to get into the candy business and they've got enough grit and determination, like I say, I'm living the American dream, because I never thought I would be in the candy business. But I guess I'm just dumb enough to keep trying all the time. But it's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe. That was great. This was
Thank
very
you very much.
informative,
You guys
and
are
we
great.
really appreciate you being our speaker today.
Well, come on down to the candy factory and I'll give you a tour.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have to do that. So we'll send it. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And as always, thanking the Washoe County Library System for helping us put on High Noon every month. So I'll turn it back to Samantha.
Thank you all for joining us today. That was wonderful. Thank you, Sherry Zorn, Neil Cobb, and Joe Dutra with the Nevada Historical Society, and Tim, our Washoe County Library Tech Wizard, for making this event possible today. If you want to see what else is coming up, visit us at events.washoecountylibrary.us, where you can also access and download our Virtual Explorer, which is a publication listing of all virtual events and resources. All right, see you next time.
Bye.